Southeast Asia. It's my favorite part of the world. I'm a scholar who loves history and how it plays out in the present. Not to mention what it can tell us about the future. In this 4-part series, I go on a personal journey to show you how much we Southeast Asians have in common, even when we don't want to admit it. And I investigate shared culture and the things we fight about.
From the highlands of West Sumatra to the streets of Bangkok, from the temples of Yangon to the palaces of Java.
This is my Southeast Asia. Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is my hometown. In 2008, I started giving a series of lectures here at the Central Market. Though I am based in Singapore now, I love coming back here once in a while.
Farish is one of our favorite people, partly because if we put him at the 12 o'clock slot, we know that we can get a good crowd. And the vendors will be happy because
The name for today's lecture is Where Are We? I'm here to tell hidden stories of the past and why I think our ancestors were more globalized than we are today. I'm happy to see more than 100 people turn up on a Sunday to hear me talk about my favorite topic, geographical borders, or more specifically, how nebulous they were historically.
We are only southeast in relation to other compass directions. But who decided this? Indonesians, Filipinos, Singaporeans.
The maps we know today were invented by Western cartographers to mark their territorial power. So the basic question is, if the borders of Southeast Asia were not drawn up by Southeast Asians in the first place, how did they view themselves? How should a Southeast Asian map look like?
I'll show you a map now. Batik is writing, and batik is a narrative, and batik can be read and should be read as narratives. What we see here is a depiction of an idealized notion of humankind's relationship to the universe around you.
Batik, for me, is a historical document written by our ancestors who shared their ideas freely, unlike today. In recent years, I've noticed a rise in nationalist sentiments over heritage claims. We fight over who owns batik, who created our favorite dishes, and where our cultural dances originated from. These voices can get rancorous, and I'm caught between amusement and worry. To me, it seems pointless to fight over something that should be inherently shared. In Indonesia, the 6th day of the week is called Batik Friday. It's when every citizen is encouraged to be in their best batik wear. In Malaysia, Thursdays have been designated Batik Day. The intention is to instill national pride, but taken to the extreme, batik can also divide countries.
Well, here we are in front of the Malaysian Embassy that has been the scene of many a demonstration over things like batik. But when we take into account the history of Southeast Asia, that has been a history of borrowing and learning from each other's cultures, why are we fighting over batik?
So let's trace back and set things straight. Historians and batik collectors like myself acknowledge the art of batik flourished in Java, Indonesia, where Javanese royalty and their courtiers devoted months to crafting motifs on textiles with wax and dye. Today, one can get a peek of Javanese court culture in central Java. I'm making my way to the royal graveyard in the village of Imogiri. I counted 346 steps up this hill, but it's worth the climb, you'll see. The early rulers of Java decreed that batik must be worn on palace grounds. I'm more than happy to comply.
Silakan duduk.
Ya. Pak, saya datang mau ke makam, tapi saya lupa pakaian Jawa saya.
Oh iya.
Bisa dipinjamin?
Bisa.
I asked for batik and a jacket from the city of Solo, where my mother's grandmother was from. I'm Javanese, Dutch, Indian and Arab by descent, and I carry a Malaysian passport. I guess I'm as hybrid as millions of others in the region. But having Javanese blood does not give me more right to wear batik. If you ask me, I'm a citizen of Southeast Asia, and I wear batik with pride.
So here at the royal graveyard of Imogiri, we can see that the culture of batik is still very much alive, and it's being kept alive by the patronage of the royal families of Central Java.
You can say that every batik enthusiast should pay homage to the Javanese royals. After all, it was they who enriched the art of batik making. But does that mean batik is Indonesian? I wonder what our ancestors would have thought of these ownership claims. Heritage, after all, is about remembering their story. That's why I've been collecting antique batik, to find more historical clues about our region's past. So how does batik tell the story of Southeast Asia? Find out after the break. Mustar Bonaventura gained notoriety by throwing human feces at the Malaysian Embassy in Jakarta.
Kalau bisa, Jul, stop.
He heads an anti-Malaysian group that has been staging violent protests at the Malaysian Embassy in Jakarta since 2009. According to him, he wants to defend Indonesian domestic workers who suffer abuse in Malaysia and to take a stand on sovereignty issues. The group also believes that Malaysia stole their culture, including batik.
Budaya itu kan buat kita identitas bangsa ya. Dan itu sudah diakui oleh dunia luar. Dunia, world. Sudah diakui. Ya saya sebagai anak bangsa merasa marah kalau kemudian itu adalah budaya milik kami, lalu kemudian diklaim, diakui oleh Malaysia. Jangan dong kemudian budaya yang adalah warisan yang ditinggalkan oleh leluhur bangsa Indonesia, tiba-tiba dalam proses sejarahnya ini diakui oleh Malaysia.
I've been an ASEAN advocate all my life, and hyper-nationalists boggle my mind. I believe our ancestors were a lot more open-minded about our culture. So I was much happier to meet Datuk Lila Muhammad Ali. We share the same views about batik. In 2003, Indon Mahmud, the late wife of former Malaysian Prime Minister Abdullah Ahmad Badawi, founded a movement to revitalize the batik industry in Malaysia. They called it Malaysian Batik, Crafted for the World movement. It's now headed by Datuk Lila.
You can see this beautiful dress on the mannequin. The piece of cloth that she almost in no way are we saying that Malaysians created batik themselves. In the East Coast, where Malaysian batik is supposed to have started, Malaysians were just wearing batik. They were users of batik. They were not producers of batik. And a lot of the craftsmen were definitely from Indonesia. And over time, of course, a craft and an art, get passed down to the locals.
How do you feel about, countries claiming batik to belong to them exclusively?
I suppose it will go on. So to us, it's a non-issue. This, who owns it is a non-issue. But we must not forget the people moved away. And if the origins are there, then if they move away, they will take with them whatever they have, you see. So we can't stop that.
I've been collecting antique batik for the last 20 years, and these are some of my prized possessions. Every piece is more than a century old. It started as a personal mission to piece together the history of Southeast Asia from the point of view of those who came before us. For me, batik is a canvas that reflects the hybrid influences that make our region so fascinating. The Pucuk Robong motif symbolizes the mountain, which is used in Indonesian, Malaysian and Thai batik. And this undulating motif symbolizes the Nagaraja, the Serpent King, found in the mythology of Southeast Asia even before the coming of Hinduism and Buddhism. On this piece of batik, we see another instance of cultural overlap. The Nagaraja, the Serpent King, is paired with the Singabarong, the sea monster with an elephant head that is sometimes associated with Hinduism. Now look at the cloud patterns and we see traces of Chinese aesthetics coming into batik. The cloud patterns, or megamundung, are also found in the rock formations. This batik has Chinese symbols, not surprising since all of Southeast Asia traded with China long before.
And then batik evolves even further, finally leading us to the so-called company period, that is, batik that was produced during colonial rule. And this is a very good example. It tells us about how Southeast Asia adapted to modernity. This is the famous ship that sailed from Krakatoa to Amsterdam and back. And we see that, we see the Dutch soldiers marching, we see the Dutch flag. We can read this like we read a history textbook.
In my journey to Jakarta, I am fortunate to meet Larasati Suliantoro Sulaiman, an Indonesian batik advocate.
Batik ini wujud sudah beratus-ratus tahun sebelum wujudnya negeri-negeri seperti Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapura. Batiknya sudah ada. Yang sepatutnya buat saya saya rasa batik ini adalah satu yang menjadi jambatan buat kita. Apakah Ibu khawatir melihat apabila berlakunya konflik-konflik di mana orang mengklaim batik itu saya, batik itu kamu?
Saya kira klaim-klaim itu terlalu apa ya? Terlalu dangkal ya. Untuk apa? Wong kita juga membuat musik dari Eropa, ya toh? Membuat arsitektur dari Eropa, ya toh? Jadi kan kita di dunia ini kan tidak ada batasan-batasan untuk karya-karya seni. Dan sekarang kami membuat satu gerakan. Kalau kamu membatik sesuatu yang baru, jangan marah kalau orang lain meniru. Padahal orang-orang yang mau mematenkan kan tidak boleh ditiru. Dan batik itu bukan sesuatu yang harus dipatenkan, Pak.
Ibu Larasati invites me to meet women batik makers in Imogiri. I'm curious to know what they're creating.
Ini motif apa, Bu?
Ini motif sekar jagad.
Kenapa Ibu pilih motif sekar jagad?
Soalnya saya itu milih motif sekar jagad. Batiknya itu bagi saya agak mudah sedikit, nggak pakai pola segala.
Mufrika is using a floral pattern, one of more than 100 motifs that are Javanese. The word batik literally means to write, but this is not to say that the technique is distinctively Indonesian. The technique of waxing and dyeing is a universal method first applied in China and Egypt. No one really knows when batik first reached Indonesia or Java. There is also no conclusive evidence about how the wax pen or chanting was invented. Frankly, I don't really care where batik comes from. For my own thesis is that batik is writing, and as such, batik can be read as a document of our collective history. Nowadays, batik makers continue to stamp various influences on batik, reflecting our present times. During my visit with Datuk Lila in Kuala Lumpur, I was surprised by this one. This is the actual shirt that went to outer space.
Yeah, he wore this. You can see it's there. And then space didn't seem to have any effect on the batik.
So we can really say that batik has travelled now. It's gone
literally into space and back.
Gone to outer space and back. You know?
Yeah.
And then this is our
In Central Java, I'm invited by Batik Chris, one of the biggest manufacturers of batik in Indonesia, to look at their new collection.
That's Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, Mickey Mouse, Mickey and friend. Right. Yeah, Mickey and friends. So we try to penetrate the more young people, children's, and also we would like to promote batik to become more international. Yeah.
Maybe in 100 years' time, these will be antiques as well.
I think Walt Disney Batik challenges our thoughts about how we want to position batik in a globalized world. Batik plainly shows us that our shared culture must go beyond nationalist sentiments. India and China have not accused our region of stealing their culture. So in my view, we in Southeast Asia ought to be more gracious as well. Up next, my obsession with baby batik and the lengths I go to find them.
Beautiful little thing. These are my babies.
I'm always fascinated by anything old. I've been collecting these antique photographs for a long time. They reveal how much batik was a common dress for everyone back in those days. Chinese, Indians, Malays, Arabs and Europeans all wore batik. No one quibbled over who had more right to wear it. I find this one photograph particularly interesting. Two little Dutch girls, all dressed up in batik. It inspired me to start collecting batik made for children. I have 20 pieces now, and I'm proud to be one of the few collectors of such batik in the world.
This is a child sarong. You can see that it's not made for an adult because it's not long enough for an adult, and it's got this pattern of fans. Quite a beautiful piece. And here we have a pair of pants made for a little boy. I think he probably was a naughty little boy because there's still patches on the pants till now. But my favorite one is this one. This is a little baby sarong. And these patterns, you see, they are meant to be protective patterns that protected the baby who wore it. Beautiful little thing. These are my babies.
They stopped making baby batik in the 1920s, so every piece I find becomes a real treasure. Yasir has been my antique runner for 10 years now. He usually has something for me whenever I visit. Over the years, I've taught Pat Yasser how to spot an antique batik by studying the motifs and the feel of the fabric. I find it meaningful when I can teach people about our common past.
Siapa yang potong ini? Ini tuan punyanya?
Yang punya dia.
Tuan punyanya?
Iya, jadi.
Ih, rusakin barang aja. Sayang.
Yasser has brought some pieces for me today, but I'm looking for my favorite, baby batik. So I send him off to find one. Batik runners go knocking from door to door in search of what their clients want. Finding a treasure takes luck and persistence. This lady offers Yasser a batik cloth, but it's not antique at all.
Perasaan saya agak sayang ya, agak menyesal kalau orang-orang sekarang tidak tahu batik yang asli sama yang tidak. Dia mengira semua batik itu buatan asli semua, jadi dia kurang tahu anak orang-orang sekarang itu asli atau tidak.
I was able to build my collection because sometimes others are just happy to dispose of something old. I hope Yasser finds me a new keepsake when I meet him.
Itu dia, Pak Yasser. Pak Yasser. Udah ini ada Pak Yasser. Romo. Gimana? Ya, ada Pak. Sukses. Ya. Mari Pak. Ya, mari. Ya. Ini barangnya yang dicari. Oke. Anak-anak ya? Ya, untuk anak kecil nih. Bagus.
Baby batik is a delightful facet of history that I hope will not be forgotten. My dream is to open a private museum someday and show future generations this wonderful collection of our shared history. We were once fellow writers of a common narrative, and I hope it's something we remember for a long time to come.